There's a guy named Frederick II. If you look at coins from the time period in Sicily, one side is in Arabic, the other side is in Latin. Frederick II actually had a bureaucracy made up of Christians, Jews, and Muslims. And he learned Arabic. He didn't just learn Arabic, he spoke Italian and German and French and I think 2 other languages. The dude was just, is that a polyglot? I forget what there's a polyglot. Anyway, whatever it is, he was that guy. And he would read texts in the original Arabic, and then sometimes he'd translate them in Latin. He even did his own science. He was so in love with the Muslim world that after throwing the Crusaders out, he was approached to see if he wanted the title of King of Jerusalem. And he didn't send an army and conquer it. It was just a symbolic gesture. He eventually will become the Holy Roman Emperor, which means he also owned Italy and Germany. And he's spreading his ideas. He got into falconry, right? The quintessential Arab sport. Like he's out there with falcons reading original Arabic script, learning how to do this. And it pissed off the popes. He got excommunicated twice. He led an army to Rome twice. He conquered it and captured the pope and cut his head off a couple of times, and instituted new popes a couple of times, because all that sciencey stuff that he was learning was apparently corrupting his soul. But yeah, it's the same time period. It's that moment when Italy is rethinking, maybe burning the books wasn't a great idea. So you have 2 ways of thinking about this. You can pretend that Islam held on to Western civilization while Western civilization was burning itself to the ground, and then Western civilization just reconstituted itself. Or you can realize the truth, which is that the Arabs were Western civilization all along. Islam didn't necessarily save something that it wasn't. It saved itself. It just took it to a new level. The Arabs weren't doing something that was alien to them. They were part of Western civilization. They even had a Western civilization religion because, right, Islam is an Abrahamic religion. So they had all these Western civilization traditions. When they conquered that part of Rome and Persia, that was part of Western civilization that had never stopped being Western civilization. What happened is you were taught it in an Islamophobic way, so all the Muslim parts were just simply deleted. And so now we think of this as an East-West divide, and somehow the Muslims are on the east side of it. They're not. That woman, when she told me Egyptians are Easterners, she's just flat out wrong. This is part of Orientalism. It's an attempt to make you see the world as us versus them. It's not. It's just not. In Texas, for example, we do community property divorce. We got that from Mexico. Mexico's Catholic. It didn't have divorce. Mexico got it from Spain. Spain is Catholic. Spain didn't have divorce. When the Arabs ruled Spain, they got sick of all the deadbeat husbands who were divorcing their wives for younger models and then leaving the children to be raised by those divorced wives who no longer had a source of income. So there were all these kids living in the streets. So what they did in Spain was they created a system where all the property generated from the moment of the marriage's start to the moment of the marriage's end got split in half, period, end of story. That's community property law. So, you'll hear this thing that conservatives will say, I'm worried about Sharia law. Well, then don't get divorced. Because that's Muslim law. The taco. When the Spanish conquered Mexico, they said, make this. The thing they were saying to make was shawarma, because the Spanish were Arabs. They were just self-hating Arabs who rejected their Arabness. So they had flatbread food with meat in the middle and then vegetables and a sauce you put on it that they would fold like this. The Aztecs go, we don't have those ingredients. The Spanish go, you're our slaves, we're going to kill you, make it anyway. So the Mexicans went, fine, and then they made a tortilla and they put meat on it. And they did a salsa because they needed the ingredients because they didn't have tahina. And they were just stuck. So the next time you're eating tacos, remember that it's actually originally Arab food. It's just a Native American version of Arab food. Al pastor. You're like, that'll work. I'll eat pork. That way I don't have to actually eat Arab food because Arabs don't eat pork. So about a little bit less than 200 years ago, 150 years ago, Arabs started to move to Mexico. Those Arabs wanted to make shawarma. They're like, my God, tacos are basically just shawarma. How did that happen? Because they didn't know the original story. So they're sitting there going, I want to make the shawarma with lamb. I need a fatty meat. There just isn't enough fatty meat in pork. And so the Arab Mexicans, if you've ever been to Mexico and you've eaten al pastor off the thing, it's the shawarma thing, but it's got pork on it. In other words, al pastor is Arab food twice. We're all interconnected. There's no separating any of this out from anything. Our language is like this. Admiral is an Arabic word. Zenith, nadir, algebra, those are all Arabic words. Zero is an Arabic word. Apricot is an Arabic word. There's no winning if you really wanted to do this, because there's no separating us out from each other. Okay, so the question is, why did Christianity reject all that philosophy and, set everything on fire at the same time that Muslims were embracing it? I don't think there's a simple answer. I think, there's a historical moment that Christians found themselves in as the Roman Empire was in decline. Right? The Roman Empire almost went away in the 3rd century. Diocletian saved it and reconstituted it. By that point, it goes Christian. And then on that, as the Roman Empire goes Christian, it's in a terrible position. Its economy is garbage. The population is poor. The population is small. Rome at one point was 1.5 million people. By the time we get to the 6th century AD, there was about 50,000 Romans living in the city. So Rome itself was diminished. And I think in that moment, there was this sense of, it's hopeless, everything is falling apart around us. Let's turn to religion. We'll focus on religion. We'll just try to save our souls. We're not going to worry about the material world. And so I think that was the basis of the rejection, that it came out of a sense of despair. But in the same time, the Muslims were making this brand new empire. They were filled with vigor. They had this new religion. There was hope. There were dreams. They encountered philosophy and they fell in love with it and they ran with it. And so I think there was a little bit of that going on because, then Christians go, oh my God, why did we burn all that? And then they bring it back, and the next thing you know, Britain conquers 40% of the planet. And so there's this pendulum swing. And I gotta say, I like one end of the swing. I do. I love science. I love things like antibiotics. Antibiotics are wonderful. I love calculus. I think it's a great thing. You should learn it. Physics. Boundless love of physics. When that pendulum comes swinging back the other way and we're setting books on fire and pulling them out of libraries in Texas, it freaks me out. Because I've seen this play before. I've read about it anyway. I wasn't there. And I know how this story ends. And you're not going to like it. You're not. We don't need to do this again. We've done it before. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. Just for the record. So, the talk tonight is masculinity. And just to set it up a little bit, I never intended to give this talk ever in my life. Like, this is not something